welcome to the Create Your Signature System video class. And allow me to start this class by going down the memory lane a little bit here, because as I was preparing this class for you, I could still remember the feeling of a certain unease and inauthenticity that was relatively frequent for me when I first officially registered my coaching business. It was a place of a little bit of an emotional conundrum for me because on one hand, I knew there was so much I had to offer. I had many trainings and certifications and degrees under my belt. I had the credentials and the titles, and it all looked good on paper. I was actually teaching coaching in an international coaching school. And yet there was still this part of me that felt inauthentic about the work that I was doing. And luckily, I realized that it wasn't my knowledge or my skills that I felt inauthentic about, but the part where I felt lost and that I felt uneasy about was the business side of the business. And I'm saying this because this happens to be the case for so many practitioners, for so many coaches and tailors and people working in similar frameworks and environments. So things look good on paper. We have the training, and then we get into the launching part of our business, and we get to this putting ourselves out there part. But, with horror, perhaps you realize that it's not as easy as actually doing your trainings and getting your certifications and the learning. For me personally, it was the feeling of not knowing what I'm doing that held me back big time. So the only possible thing that I could do was to figure out what needed to happen for me in order to feel like I actually know what I'm doing, to feel authentic, because that was the only way for me to proceed. What things do I need to have in place? And I knew that it wasn't the trainings anymore, so that I would feel authentic about my business the same way I felt authentic about my knowledge and skills. And the answer was surprisingly simple. I realized that I needed to have solid offerings that wouldn't let me or the client wonder about what it is that I can actually do for them. Offerings that would be clearly structured, and for me, it was also important that they were beautifully presented. Offerings that would have the client trust that I am the right person for them and that I can actually help them. Offerings that would be so solid in their content and presentation that they would boost my own sense of confidence and allow for that feeling of course, I know what I'm doing. I will assume here that at this point, you have a solid enough idea as to what your zone of genius is. So your unique combination of talent, skill, knowledge, and gifts. This is because working within your zone of genius is the only way you'll be able to deliver high quality services or products to your clients and stick to the game in the long run. We want you to be naturally good at what you're doing and actually enjoy what it is that you're doing so that you don't drop the ball before or soon after success shows up for you. Defining your zone of genius is an optimal place for you to start your journey, but the truth is, the most unique set of talents and gifts, nor the most evolved and honed skills and knowledge won't get you far unless your genius is supported by some kind of structure, by some kind of system. A system that will reliably and predictably deliver excellent results and benefits for your clients. Let's now look at what is a signature system? A signature system is nothing more, nothing less than your own unique to you way of solving a specific problem. For example, there are several ways of helping someone organize their home. But if your business was about home organizing, and if you had a signature system around home organizing, then it would be a unique to you way of helping someone transform their disorganized home into a place that they would love because there's a vibe of clarity and calm, for example. So, a signature system is a set of steps and the order in which these steps are delivered. Let's use a cooking analogy. Say you're baking a chocolate cake, and the ingredients are your flour, your milk, eggs, butter, chocolate chips, you name it. These are your steps. They all must go into the cake because otherwise there's no chocolate cake, or a bad chocolate cake happens. But the order is important too. You may need to melt your butter before adding it to the rest of your ingredients. And you definitely have to break the eggs before adding them in. Otherwise, you know the drill by now, no chocolate cake or bad chocolate cake. Knowing your steps and their order, in other words, having a structure and a system behind your work, gives you the confidence that you'll end up with an excellent chocolate cake. Even better, having a system makes sure that you end up with an amazing chocolate cake every time you decide that you're in the mood for one. Bottom line, a signature system is a curricular system aimed at solving a specific problem. And you do this through concrete steps that are organized in a particular order. And all this system is built on your unique sets of gifts, talents, skills, and expertise. Ultimately, a signature system is what allows you to design powerful offerings that will transform your client's life. It can also be useful to look at this from the other end. What happens without a signature system? Without having a system behind your expertise, you're risking some, if not all, of the following. You will have the right credentials with things looking good on paper, but deep down you will feel like you don't know what you're doing. You may feel like a jack of all trades, an expert in nothing. You might begin to fear that you're an imposter, fraud, feeling like you're just swinging it because you have nothing solid enough in your hands to show up for. You may become overwhelmed because you have a lot of knowledge and information, sometimes maybe too much, but it's neither organized nor ready to use to help someone with it in practical terms. You might not be able to enroll clients because they don't know that you are the go-to person who can help them with what they're needing. You might have clients, but end up overworked and depleted because you have to figure things out from scratch every single time you enroll a new client. And at the end, you might lose confidence because you don't know how to channel your gifts and expertise into a sustainable business. And what a travesty that would be. Now, if you've gone through the gentle trauma release training, you already have a signature system that is ready to use, and you can work with it with your clients. It's reflected in the packaged offerings that you get access to as part of your GTR training. If GTR is all that you'd like to focus on in your practice, well, then you already have what you need and no more work is needed on your end when it comes to creating a signature system. You already have all your ducks in a row. Having said that, some of you might wish to combine GTR with some of the other tools that you have learned along the way. Perhaps GTR will be just part of what you do. In this scenario, you do want to create your own signature system, and you will find this class and the resources offered to you helpful in creating your very own and unique signature system. So just to repeat, why do you need a signature system? Well, there are more benefits than I can count in developing your own signature system, but let me just mention the most important ones. With a signature system in place, you will feel like you actually know what you're doing. And this is because instead of your genius being scattered all over the place, it's focused and channeled into a structured, neatly organized system. You will also own your expertise. It's easier to become a confident expert when you have sat down and mapped out your own unique transformation process that brings real results. You will be able to create viable offerings, meaning you don't have to hide behind fluffy, deceitful marketing language. If there's a method behind what you're doing, you'll naturally end up with powerful offerings that deliver real results. What you deliver and the way you describe it in an appealing marketing language will be one and the same, and that's how things should be. You will also be able to create diverse offerings, and this is one of the most fun parts of having a signature system. When you have a system, you can dress it any way you like and any way you please. That way, your system can end up being a one-on-one coaching package or an online course, or perhaps a series of retreats that you will run over the year. A signature system allows you to effortlessly replicate your success because you sort of only sweat it once during the time when you're putting it together. And then it just becomes a matter of repeating your recipe. You will feel authentic and confident because signature system means clarity. And the clarity is both for you and the client. As for you, you always know what you're doing and therefore consistently offer top quality work. And as for the client, they know exactly what they're getting. In that respect, signature systems are also a highly ethical way of practicing. Clarity enables transparency, and transparency keeps you and your business out of trouble. Finally, you become invigorated by your work if you have a signature system in place. When your genius is gathered and organized in a system, your work is simply more efficient and powerful. You then naturally enjoy it and become proud of the value you can now offer to the world. Again, if you only want to focus on the gentle trauma release work, you already have everything that you need in place. Your signature system has been created for you, and you're all set if you wish to use it. In order to get started with your own signature system, you will need clarity on the main problem of your audience, and then the end result they'll be able to experience as you help them with their problem. So you'll need your point A and your point C. I would encourage you to start the creation of your signature system there. And then we want to continue by giving it a name that would reflect that A to Z trajectory or the problem solution trajectory. Now, to make this easier for you, here are some examples of signature systems that I helped my students and clients create in the past. From burnout to bliss, the professional woman's success formula to thrive and soar in the corporate and in life. Awaken your beauty inside out. Fall in love with the skin you're in. From dread to delight, a step-by-step formula for women with absentee husbands who lost themselves in the middle of the mundane. The Body Confidence Method, a fitness and coaching program for busy women who want to feel good, look good, and make it last. Charisma and Presence Mastery Program, manifest the reality you desire with your natural feminine magnetism. Radical Body Acceptance, a coaching program to start liking the body you're in and feeling good in it. The Business Confidence Formula, a program for entrepreneurs who want to stop playing it small. And the last example, Total Business Makeover, close big deals with heart and get the clients you love. The beauty of signature systems is that because it's a roadmap, the offerings you create based on it are many or can be many. It can be a book, it can be a one-on-one coaching program, it can be a group coaching program, a home study or online course, wherever it makes sense. You can also use bits and pieces of your signature systems and create multiple offerings that build upon one another. So, for example, the first step of your signature system could be the main focus of a 4-hour workshop. And then you can run another workshop that will focus on a different building block of your signature system. The possibilities are many. Let's now begin by giving the name to your signature system that would reflect that A to Z trajectory. Use the examples that I've just given you to come up with the name of your own signature system, and ideally do it the way I showed you. So give it a name, a title, and a subtitle. Go for it. Once you have the name, and really most importantly, an utter clarity on your starting point, the main problem, and your main end result, so where are you able to get them through your program, through your signature system, then we want to see all the steps and all the milestones on this A to Z trajectory. We want to clearly define the building blocks of the transformation process unique to you. In other words, the steps of your unique signature system. Now, the good thing is that there is a strategy behind everything you do, whether you're aware of it or not. Your strategy behind something as simple as preparing a cup of tea might be very different from mine. Perhaps you get the cup first and only then you get your tea. I do it the other way around. I first select my tea and then find the right cup for it. Perhaps you let your boiled water rest for a minute before pouring it into the cup, while I may pour the water in immediately. The same is true for how you solve any problem, including the one that your signature system revolves around. You have a unique to you strategy or a set of steps that you consistently apply to the problem you solve with your genius or your expertise. You have your own core transformation process as you work with your clients. And the goal is to find out what steps you follow, even if unconsciously, to create amazing results for your tribe, to create that main end result, that Z point on your trajectory. Let me give you a couple of examples. I have created a system called the Gentle Trauma Release Method. I use it in my coaching practice with individual clients to help de-traumatize their system so that they can live a trauma-free life. However, I also teach the Gentle Trauma Release Method to practitioners who want to be able to do the same for their clients. The main pain point and the main end result of these two demographics are completely different, as you can see here. So, for example, when it comes to my individual coaching clients who have trauma in their system, well, their main point is they have trauma. They suffer from physical, emotional, or mental symptoms as a result of carrying trauma in their body. And the main result that I would like to bring them to is a de-traumatized system, because that will improve their physical, emotional, or mental well-being. Now, when it comes to teaching practitioners how to use the Gentle Trauma Release Method to help their own clients, the main pain point is that these practitioners feel like they don't have enough tools to help their own clients with trauma in the system. They might not feel competent, skilled, or equipped to deal with traumatized clients. And the main end result in this case would be, well, I would like to teach them tools to skillfully help clients that carry trauma in their systems so that the practitioner ends up feeling competent and equipped to deal with traumatized clients. So once again, the main pain point and the main end result of these two demographics are completely different. And therefore, the core transformation process, in other words, the journey composed of steps that I take them through, will be different. Again, to demonstrate so that I don't leave you guessing in any way, shape, or form. Here are the steps I need to take my two audiences through in order to deliver the main result. Let's start with individual clients who have trauma in their system. Well, so first I have to assess where they are in terms of traumatic symptoms. Then perhaps I neutralize their core traumatic memories and emotions. And I do that enough so that I can then help them with other steps, such as helping them get back into their body and befriend their body. I help them then develop their whole body intuition. I also need to help them transition into a trauma-free life. That's another step. Most of the time, they will need help with taming their very harsh inner critic. And finally, I also have to help them cultivate their resilience and hopefulness so that they are able to sustain their emotional well-being in the long run. The steps are completely different for my other demographic, so practitioners who would like to master the gentle trauma release method. First, I have to teach them trauma basics and fundamentals, well, because most of my students do not have a background in psychology and they do need that. And then I teach them how to neutralize traumatic events, which is not the same as neutralizing traumatic emotions. So that's another step. I also need to teach them how to conduct powerful GTR sessions, perhaps teaching them how to take detailed client history, what to do in the beginning, middle, and end of a session. Then there are those outliers. So for example, when the SUD score doesn't go down all the way to 0, which sometimes happens. So I would like them to know what to do in cases like these. And that's another step. I also have to teach them about transitions because this is something that they will encounter a lot in this kind of work. And the same goes for helping the client get back into the body. I have to teach them how to help somebody else do that. I also have to teach them how to help somebody else tame their inner critic. And I also need to teach them how to support their clients in the long run so they can show their clients how to cultivate resilience and hopefulness. As you can see, there's a strategy behind both of these systems. It is a sum of steps building on each other in a particular order. And the core transformation process, in other words, the way I deliver the A to Z transformation, differs in these two instances because there are two separate signature systems. Let's now begin to elicit your own core transformation process. I will show you two different exercises designed to map out how exactly you help your clients succeed and transform. I will walk you through something called the Loving Mentor exercise, and then also through the Reverse Engineer Your Finest Work exercise. These two processes will overlap in parts, but it's important that you go through both of them. Let's begin. With the Loving Mentor exercise, you imagine that you have a beloved student or a beloved child who has studied your work and who wants to walk in your footsteps in your area of expertise. Imagine you really believe in the goodness and the wisdom of this person. You know that they care about other people and that they want to make a difference. They have studied and trained hard to become an expert. They admire and respect you tremendously because they've seen you transform people's lives with what you do. And actually, you always wish that if you were to reveal your expert secrets to somebody, it would be precisely this person. Now, picture yourself taking a walk with them somewhere breathtakingly beautiful, maybe on a beach, a forest, nature trail. You know, this person that you love and care about is ready to spread their wings, and you decide that you'd like to share your trade secrets with them so they can succeed. You give them permission to ask you anything they'd like to know, and then you answer their questions. Imagine that these are the questions you were asked. What answers would you give? Why can't your clients help themselves? Why do they need you? Question number 2, what is it that they're most blind to? Are they in denial of something when they come to you? And then once they have worked with you, what would they say were the 5 most important things that you did with them and that led to their successful transformation? Imagine your beloved disciple asking you another set of questions, beginning with, after all these years of successfully helping your tribe, what would you say are the 3 core principles that if you stick to those, you know you'll be able to help them? Also, what are the most practical pieces of information that you needed to give them in order for them to achieve superb results? What are the most efficient processes or interventions to create a powerful transformation in your clients, the ones that you couldn't help them without? And also tell them, why is that? You know, out of your vast toolkit, which processes or interventions were the most efficient if you look back? Okay, let's look at the second exercise now, called Reverse Engineer Your Finest Work. And in this case, you will imagine that right in front of you is your ideal client. So someone from your tribe that has the exact problem that you're so good at solving with your genius, the problem that your signature system will revolve around. Now imagine that you can see the client, but they cannot see you. And this is a client that has achieved amazing results after working with you. Now, looking at them, they don't see you, you're just observing from a distance. Try to answer these questions. What are the specific results that your client would need to achieve in order to say that you help them with their problem? And with this question, state your answers in as much of a measurable way as you possibly can, perhaps using verbs like they have to do, be, become, feel, etc. So in my case, if I want to teach someone the gentle trauma release method well, I do think they have to have the basic understanding of trauma. I also think that they have to learn how to clear traumatic memories of specific traumatic events. So these are very measurable steps. Another question here, if you were to write a book about how you get your audience from problem to solution, what would be the chapters? Draft your book outline in a simple way. Again, if you look at what I presented to you as my core transformation process for the 2 audiences, one-on-one coaching clients and my gentle trauma release method students, those could be chapters of a book if I wanted to write a book on the topic. If you were to list the common problem areas of the demographic you're trying to help, what would they be? How can you make steps out of these problem areas. What is the first thing your client needs to do to begin the journey leading to results? What do they need to do, master, or learn to achieve the results that you aim for? In other words, what steps are indispensable for them to go through in order to achieve the result they want? Are there any ideas, concepts, or techniques they need to grasp before the work starts? To put this differently, is there anything they need to understand, learn, see before you dig into the work? And finally, the last two questions. What processes and interventions would you walk them through in order to achieve the results they are looking for? And what does your client need at the very end so they can move forward in an empowered way? This leads us to the end result, which is to gather the different steps of your core transformation process. So if you were to say, overall, these are the steps that I need to take my client through in order for them to be successful in achieving the results that they're looking for, what would those steps be? Let me offer you one more example of a signature system on top of the gentle trauma release example that I presented to you earlier. Let's say I wanted to create a signature system along the lines of heal your money legacy, how to be okay with money and invite it into your life. Doesn't just the name sound inciting? I would take that course. But let's pretend I'm a money mindset coach who is also trained in the gentle trauma release method. So I would take myself through these two processes, the loving mentor exercise and the reverse engineer finance work. And I might eventually come up with the following steps to my Heal Your Money Legacy signature system. Step one, get a clear picture of current money mindset of the client. Okay, this might mean, well, maybe I would like to offer them a financial well-being assessment or figure out what is their money archetype. The details don't really matter. It's the step that matters. So I start with getting a clear picture of where they're currently at with their money mindset. And then step two could be helping the client clear the money traumas that hold them back. Okay, here perhaps I could do some GTR with them. Again, doesn't really matter how I would achieve that step, as long as you know what the step would be. Step number three, help the client heal their ancestral money history. Perhaps you have some training in ancestral healing and you would like to incorporate that into your program. Step number four, I realize maybe that I have to teach the client how to feel like they deserve money and how to feel like they deserve financial abundance. I leave the how to do this to you, but let's just say you're also trained as a Reiki master. So perhaps a Reiki session would fit in here nicely to help them with healing that undeserving feeling. Perhaps some work around limiting beliefs might fit in here. Then step five, I realize I also need to teach the client how to be comfortable with more. So not just to be comfortable with money as such, but to get used to having more of it as well. And then in step six, well, the client may need help in getting clarity on their money or financial goals and what kind of money legacy they want to leave behind. This might be important, perhaps, because they had so many money traumas and financial traumas that they were just lucky if they were able to manage their monthly expenses, and they never dared to look further into the future. So they may not even have any money financial goals. And that's important to do if we are to teach them how to have a good relationship with money. Okay, and finally, step 7, I might need to help the client develop a plan or a strategy to help them nurture the right money mindset and feel good, positive emotions around money in the long run. And that might include setting them up for what to do when there's a setback. Okay, let's assume that you took the time and you put together some kind of a draft version of your core transformation process in terms of these specific steps. When you get to this point, you will be ready to engage in creating a more detailed overview of your signature system. This will be the point where you will be ready for refining. And what that means is that we're going to gather the steps of your core transformation process and work on the details so that you end up with a polished version of your signature system. We're going to organize the steps of your core transformation process into separate modules. And this will mean that we'll gather interventions and processes and assignments that will be your tools to allow for the outcome assigned for each of your modules. We will reflect on the different assignments that you want the client to complete in each module, as well as the materials that you might want to provide them with. It all starts by going back to the steps of your core transformation process. So I'll just go back to what I previously presented. Let's say I'll go with my GTR coaching package that is designed for individual clients who have trauma in their system. And so these would be the steps, as you can see. I'll just quickly go through them. Assess where they are in terms of traumatic symptoms, neutralize our core traumatic memories and or emotions, help them get back into the body and befriend their body, develop their whole body intuition, help them transition into a trauma-free life, help them tame the inner critic, cultivate their resilience and hopefulness, and then help them sustain their emotional well-being. Okay, what would that look like in a more polished version? It is possible that each step of your core transformation process can also become a separate module in your signature system. However, it is also possible that some of the steps will have to be further narrowed down into more than one module. For example, when I was putting together the Gentle Trauma Release Method training, I knew that one of the steps was to teach my students how to clear traumatic events. And the main tool used in this scenario is the basic recipe protocol. However, there are instances where the basic recipe alone isn't enough to completely clear the memory and to bring the SUD level down all the way to 0. And therefore, I then created a new module to help with this scenario, although theoretically, this new module still fell under the step of clearing traumatic events. So one of the steps of my core transformation process. To achieve a well-polished signature system, we will gain clarity on 4 aspects of each module. We will try to come up with, number 1, what is the outcome for each module? So what is the main outcome you want your client to have in each given module? We will focus on the session. So what processes, interventions, and exercises would you like to go through and complete in the session? Materials. What materials do you need to get ready in advance for each module to give to your client? And assignments. Is there any homework? Are there any assignments that you would like to give to the client to help them achieve the outcome that you have for that particular module? Okay. I will now use the example of my trauma release coaching program designed for one-on-one coaching clients to demonstrate and role model this for you. Okay, let's now look at what this would look like for my pre-work module. So as you can see, I have all the 4 aspects that go with each and every one of the modules. I have the outcomes, I have what I'm doing in the session, I have what materials I would like to have ready, and then assignments. So I know that the outcome for this pre-work module is to, first of all, understand where the client's at when it comes to their trauma. So I want to know where exactly has trauma been holding them back the most. And I would like to have some initial impressions of their traumatic symptoms. That will allow me to identify where healing is needed the most. And also, I want to see where they would like to see themselves as a result of doing the work with me. And finally, I also want the client to have an easy to digest intro to trauma, to have a basic understanding of what trauma is. So then what am I doing in this session with them? The first session in the pre-work module session is really for me to connect with the client, to tell them about what the gentle trauma release method is about, and to walk them through the holistic well-being check-in, because I know that I will need that in the first session, the really first GTR session where we'll do the actual work. Now, as you can see, these things will help me achieve the outcome that I set for this module. For example, my walking them through the holistic well-being check-in will make it possible for me to get an initial impression of their traumatic symptoms, to pinpoint where trauma has been holding them back the most, and to identify what kind of results they would like to see for themselves. And you now know that the holistic well-being assessment actually contains all these questions and reflection spaces. Okay, what materials would I like to give to the client and therefore have ready before this module? Well, the easy breezy intro to trauma audio, and then also the holistic well-being check-in or the holistic well-being assessment. As far as the assignments for the client go, I would like them to listen to the intro to trauma, and I would also like them to fill in the holistic well-being check-in. Right. So that would be the pre-work module. And I'm just going to repeat the process for the rest of my modules. So to give you another example, in module 1, the outcome that I would love to see for the client is, and for me, is I would like to really have a good understanding of their traumatic symptoms here. And that will also allow me to identify a good memory to clear in this session, because one of my outcomes here is to help the client release one traumatic memory. Okay. And then finally, I would like to teach them the GTR basic recipe in this module. What will the session look like? Well, I would like to do something in the session that will help me get to the outcomes that I listed for myself. Okay, so I will take detailed history to get a good understanding of my client's traumatic symptoms, and I will do that by going through their holistic well-being check-in, as well as conversationally taking history. In this session, I will also identify one traumatic memory and clear it. And in this session, I will also teach them the basic recipe. The materials that I would like to have ready for this module is the GTR basic recipe instructions handout, the guided gentle trauma release session audio recording, which is basically the recording of the basic recipe instructions, and also the handout called the Emotional Freedom Plan. Okay, what will their assignments be? The usual assignment that we give someone in the proper first GTR session, meaning not the intake session, but the first session where we actually do GTR with them. Most of the time, we give them the assignment to practice the basic recipe daily, and then to start putting together their emotional freedom plan. So hopefully you understand how this would ideally work. You're putting together of the modules. As you can probably imagine, it might take you a little bit of time to sit on this and to figure out, first of all, the steps that create your core transformation process, and then the more detailed version, which means dividing your steps into modules and getting more clarity on what every module actually consists of. And the reason why we have these 4 aspects in there, the outcome, session, materials, assignments, is because that's pretty much what you need to feel like your module is ready. Now, the very last step for you to do once all of that is put together is to do what I call a module audit. So you will look at all your modules and reflect on the following questions. Are the outcomes of your modules solid and justified? In other words, do you have a really good clarity on what you're trying to accomplish in every module? The second question is, are your modules more or less the same as for their volume? Meaning, is the time needed to work through the module and the information delivered in every module more or less the same? Or is one of the module sort of disproportionately big and time consuming? And is it perhaps one that requires to do a lot more work than another module? The idea is that you want your modules to be more or less even so that every step of the way is kind of balanced. They don't have to be the same, and they can't be. But you don't want to have 10 pieces of assignment in one module and then none in another. And finally, are you happy with the order of your modules? Do the modules build on each other in a smooth, kind of logical manner? And if not, is there a more ideal way of organizing your modules in terms of their order? Allow me to finish this video class with 3 takeaways. The first one is, no matter how precisely you end up dressing your signature system, whether it's a one-on-one coaching program or a group coaching program, or perhaps a home study course, you need clear foundation blocks, i.e., your modules. Number 2, your signature system does not need to be perfect the first time you create it. You are most likely to tweak it as you work with your first clients. In fact, it's a great idea to review it regularly, especially in the beginning. And number 3, it's also a good idea to test your signature system on a few clients before you present your offerings to a larger number of people. This will allow for that tweaking and optimizing as you go. I hope you will enjoy putting together your very own signature system. And at this point, the last thing I want to say is happy planning. Thank you for your attention. And until we speak next time, goodbye.